Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So this evening we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. We're on text 67. Idam te nata pakshaya nabhaktaya gadachana na chashushave vachyam na cha mam yo vyasuyate. Okay, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere, or devoted, or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. Purport. Persons who have not undergone the austerities of the religious process, who have never attempted devotional service in Krishna consciousness, who have not tended a pure devotee, and especially those who are conscious of Krishna only as a historical personality, or who are envious of the greatness of Krishna, should not be told this most confidential part of knowledge. It is, however, sometimes found that even demoniac persons who are envious of Krishna, worshipping Krishna in a different way, take to the profession of explaining Bhagavad Gita in a different way to make business. But anyone who desires actually to understand Krishna must avoid such commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. Actually, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not understandable to those who are sensuous. Even if one is not sensuous but is strictly following the disciplines enjoined in the Vedic scripture, if he is not a devotee, he also cannot understand Krishna. And even when one poses himself as a devotee of Krishna, but is not engaged in Krishna conscious activities, he also cannot understand Krishna. There are many persons who envy Krishna because he has explained in Bhagavad Gita that he is the supreme and that nothing is above him or equal to him. There are many persons who are envious of Krishna. Such persons should not be told Bhagavad Gita, for they cannot understand. There is no possibility of faithless persons understanding Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. Without understanding Krishna from the authority of a pure devotee, one should not try to comment upon Bhagavad Gita. Om Ganadavadandasya Gananjana Shalakya Chakshulanmaditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him. So here Krishna is explaining that the particular qualifications one needs to understand the Bhagavad Gita. And the qualifications are one should be austere. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that there's different austerities. Austerities of the mind, austerities of the body, austerities of speech. So, in other words, to be pure in one's mental activities, bodily activities, pure in one's speech. So this is the austerity. And in this world, there's a tendency to, forget Krishna. And once one forgets Krishna, they're automatically not austere in their speech or in their body or their mind. So in other words, it leads to degradation. And then devoted, one has to be devoted. So means we have to be attached to our particular service to Krishna. And of course, there's natural attachment, and then there is and then there is just doing something out of, maybe it's not natural attachment or spontaneous, but it's out of duty, more or less. Like some people, they say, okay, it's good for me to come and see the deity, and it's good for me to come and offer donation, right, for the service of the deity, which it's true. It is good. It's good to come and see the deity. It's good to offer donation to the deity. It's true. But there's different reasons or different motives why people come to see the deity, why people come to offer donation to the deity, or Radha Giridhari. And the best is to be spontaneously attracted. Means it's not out of, I have to do it. I don't feel like going to the temple tonight. I don't feel like going to the temple today, but I guess I will because it's good for me. There's different levels of, you could say, motives in religion. One is fear. I better do it because if I don't do it, I'm going to get some bad reactions. If I don't visit the temple, I'm going to get some bad reaction. I remember there was this devotee, and I was asking him to help with the temple, like not financially, but to fix something. And then he was saying, "No, I don't want to do it. That's where I'm not going to do it." So then, like 2 days passed, and then he shows up to the temple. He's got this big scratch on his forehead. And then I go, "Oh, what happened?" He said, I fell down, And then I didn't say anything. I wasn't like, that was a reaction because you didn't help. But I didn't say it at all. But he kind of looked at me and he said, "All right, I'll do that." And he did it. I thought it was kind of funny. And he didn't mention to me that he thought the reason he fell was because he didn't do it, and I didn't mention to him either, but it was kind of like an unspoken kind of, we were both thinking the same thing. Anyways, but people do things out of fear that, if I don't do something, then something bad will happen to me. Or they do it out of duty. Okay, well, I don't really feel like it all the time, but I'm going to do it. Of course, duty also means sometimes you do feel like doing it, or we do feel like doing it, so we do it, but sometimes we don't, but still we do it out of duty. Just like in traditional times, Srila Prabhupada gives the example in the Bhagavad Gita. In a purport, he says that it was before the advent of mass restaurants, etc. But anyways, he gives the example that a mother, she would cook in the kitchen despite the hot weather of the summer, out of duty. Now, sometimes she may want to do that out of love or out of affection for her family, but sometimes she may not feel like doing that. But she does it out of duty. So that's also good, but it's not the highest. When I was over at one devotee's house here in San Diego, it was kind of a joke, but anyways, I was there. Many devotees were there, but in the kitchen, the wife of the house, she put up a sign in the kitchen. It's like a little wood sign, and it said, "Monday, day off. Tuesday, make it yourself. Wednesday, reheat." Like that. Thursday, anyways, it was going like that. But it was a joke because she was, quite active. She's the main cook in the house. So yeah, to come and see the deity is good, whether it's out of fear even or out of duty. But the best is out of spontaneous affection or devotion. So that's what Krishna is saying here. To understand the Bhagavad Gita, best to come to that devotional platform, pure devotional platform. And also he says, to understand Bhagavad Gita, we need to be engaged in devotional service. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam, Prahlad Maharaj says in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, to remember Krishna, and so on, different 9 processes of devotional service. So to be engaged in those, then we have a better chance to understand Krishna. And then not to be envious. So it's interesting because these things, Krishna's saying that, if you don't have these qualifications, the Bhagavad Gita shouldn't be explained to you. But the problem is that, what are we supposed to do? Because from the starting point, a lot of people, they don't have these qualities. So that's the difficulty.
Distribute them.
Yeah, and we distribute them mass. This is a book where we have, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and thousands and millions have been distributed. And that's Srila Prabhupada's desire, that's his guru's desire. But the principle is that, they're distributed, they're in people's hands, but Krishna's saying that if you really want to understand, get the full benefit, then we have to develop these qualities. And people have to develop these qualities. So this particular month, actually the month of December, there's astrological calculations, and this is the month that the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So it's the advent of the Bhagavad Gita, or some people say Gita Jayanti. So that's coming up here in this month. So it's a good time to buy some Bhagavad Gitas, give to our family, our friends, co-workers. Of course, maybe we've already done that. But we could also sponsor Bhagavad Gitas. There's many devotees who go out to the colleges and Balboa Park, etc., and distribute Bhagavad Gitas to people. So if we could sponsor some, then they, when they're out around, they could distribute to people. And sometimes people don't have exactly enough money because devotees are selling the books after all. Somebody has, whatever, $4 and it costs $10, because that's what we try to get for these hardcovers. So sponsoring a case of Bhagavad Gitas, or however many cases, devotees could say, okay, you have $4, it's okay, here, take a Bhagavad Gita. And there's other ways also to distribute Bhagavad Gitas. Maybe we should distribute some Bhagavad Gitas to some Qualcomm people. That'd be good, right? A lot of them are believers in the Bhagavad Gita, I think. So maybe we should have like a book table outside of Qualcomm and say that, get your Bhagavad Gita. It's the advent of Bhagavad Gita this month. And when everybody's pouring out after work, see how many Bhagavad Gitas we could distribute to the people. You work at Qualcomm? No.
No.
Somewhere else. You work at Qualcomm? You used to work at Qualcomm. Ravi does. Or maybe we could even have like, I don't know, there must be like a big lunchroom where they all congregate. A big lunchroom? And they all probably eat lunch at the same time, right? Around the same time. Maybe go in when they're having lunch and make announcements, oh, you have Bhagavad Gitas, and get it when you're walking out or something. I don't know. I don't know how much it costs to sponsor so many Bhagavad Gitas, or if they want to pay or whatever, but also it's kind of a religious thing, so sometimes it's a little difficult, but sometimes in India, of course India is a whole other world practically, but in India, what they do, the devotees do, is they go to a big company and they talk to the boss of the company. And they say, okay, you got 500 members in your company, and practically all of them are, they respect the Bhagavad Gita, generally. So Mr. Bossman, you take 500 Bhagavad Gitas, sponsor, you buy them, and you give them to all your employees. And sometimes they do that, quite often. So, anyways, maybe we could work something out with Qualcomm. So yeah, it's a good time to sponsor Bhagavad Gita, to read Bhagavad Gita. It's a great month to read Bhagavad Gita. And to try to enter into the message of Bhagavad Gita, because the one devotee compared Srila Prabhupada's books to like an ocean. So on the surface of the ocean, you'll find certain things, whatever, seaweed, or maybe you'll find some dolphins jumping or something. Now, but if you go deeper into the ocean, okay, then you start fish and sharks and so on. And then if you go deeper, you could find pearls and valuable. People take pearls from the ocean, and they make necklaces. They're very expensive, actually. I don't exactly know how much they are, but they're expensive. Diamonds, pearls, things found in the ocean. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada's books, or the Bhagavad Gita, the purports of the Bhagavad Gita, are very deep, like an ocean, and we could try to mine some of those valuable gems out. Okay, does anybody have any question or comment? What time is it now? 7:35. Okay. So any question or comment?
When we distribute books, sometimes we get people, sometimes they are interested, sometimes they are not interested. But if you go strictly by this shloka, then we should not give.
Not give books at all? Yeah, I mean, it's like we might as well just close down, because people, we're in America and people aren't austere and aren't devoted to Krishna and engaged in devotional service, so they can't understand. Yeah. But then you have like Srila Prabhupada, he says in some purports in the early chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, he says that although Krishna says these things, it's true, but Srila Prabhupada says that the devotee, he knows the real intention of Krishna. Because like for example, in the early chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, in a particular shloka, Krishna says that you should not disturb the minds of people by trying to engage them in Krishna consciousness, practically speaking. That's what Krishna says. But then Prabhupada says in the purport that the devotee understands the real nature of Krishna. And although he's saying this, he ultimately, he wants us to give the message of Krishna to everybody. Like Srila Prabhupada said about the chanting party, like when the devotees go out and chant on the streets, sometimes people go like this, oh, I don't want to hear. Most people, they're receptive and smiling, and that's the general, it seems, these days. But some people, so Prabhupada said that if you go out and chant on the streets and then they go like this, you should have one brahmachari on one side take the arm down, and then you should have the other brahmachari on the other side take the other arm down, so they could hear, So even if people don't want to be helped, still the devotees try to help for their benefit. Just like a doctor, a doctor will go in to somebody, they're a sick patient, and they have a fever, and says, okay, it's time for your needle shot. They'll say, oh, it's time for your medicine, Mr. Patel, time for your medicine, right? Or whatever, Mr. So-and-so. And Mr. John. Now, sometimes their fever's so high, they're so disturbed, they're so sick that they get mad at the doctor. And they start yelling and using, bad language and so on, get out and maybe try to hit him or something. So one time and it happens like this doctor a friend of mine was telling me this doctor was telling him that a person was training with a doctor, and this happened. The doctor came in and he started yelling and using, hitting up, get away from me. And the doctor said, okay, and then he left. And then the next day, the doctor came in with the person who was training. And then the person who was yelling and screaming, the sick patient, they said, oh, I'm so sorry, this and that, I wasn't feeling good. So anyways, the idea is that sometimes when we try to help people, they react like that. Oh, don't help me, and this and that. But a devotee still tries to help, and then ultimately, hopefully, they feel that they get some benefit. Just like I met this person yesterday here at the temple, and he said when he was a teenager, he got one of Prabhupada's books here in San Diego. And he saw the devotees around, and he spoke with them. But for years, he didn't come around. But just recently, he started visiting the Seattle temple. And now he's chanting Hare Krishna and chanting on his beads. And he's here now, but he's leaving tomorrow. So sometimes it takes a little time for people and he also got books years ago. So sometimes it takes some time. I think I already said that, but sometimes it takes some time for people to take it seriously or to become absorbed or become interested. Just like a book, very patient, right? We give someone a book and it sits on their shelf, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, something like that. And then, they're going through some difficulty or some struggle, or who knows what happens, right? So many things could happen in the world. They're going through difficulty and they're, all right, well, I'm kind of feeling depressed and frustrated. Well, let me try to read something. Let me try to read something uplifting or spiritual. So they're looking on their bookshelf and they see Bhagavad Gita. Okay, they grab the Bhagavad Gita and read it, and then they could come to the temple sometimes and they become devotees. And so yeah, it could change people quite a lot. Vijay told this story recently. He told a few stories about people getting Prabhupada's books. Just trying to think of the one. A good one. Well, the one that's coming up to my mind is that devotees in Russia, I think it was Ukraine, devotees in Ukraine, they were going to go do Harinam in this park. But it was kind of cold, and devotees were thinking, oh, maybe we shouldn't go. And so then they end up going, and Niranjana Swami's there, and other devotees are there, and they're chanting Hare Krishna. And then this young man comes up to them, and he starts to ask questions, and then he gets a Bhagavad Gita, and he starts to read it, and he becomes very inspired, and then he starts to describe to the devotees what he was going through before they met him. And he was saying that he was planning to commit suicide that day. And specifically, I mean, this is how I heard it, and it's hard to, I don't know why devotees would, anyways, but he said that the devotee said, the fellow, he said, he pointed to the tree, and there was like a rope there, where the guy was planning to kill himself. And, but his idea was that, okay, God, if you're there, if you're out there, show me somebody who's happy. Because I haven't really seen anybody who's happy. They just, it's all okay, a little happy here and there, but not really happy. So then the devotees showed up, and they're chanting and having a great time chanting Hare Krishna. So, yeah, the person got a Bhagavad Gita, became a devotee. And the books travel all over the world. There's also this case of a devotee. His father, they're from Burma, but the father got a book in New York City. And then he came back and he gave the book to his son in Burma. And then the son read it, and he didn't know English actually at the time, but he was learning English with Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. But he's really interested. So he sent a letter to the BBT, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in Los Angeles. And he said, I want some more books. Please send them. So then what happened is the BBT contacted Bhakti-Vikas Swami, one of our gurus in ISKCON, and Bhakti-Vikas Swami personally went there. He was on a one-day visa. So he went there and he met this young man and he spoke to him about Krishna consciousness, gave him some books, told him how to chant japa, the whole thing, and then he left. And then years that new devotee was there in Burma, and he actually built, they got a temple, and he's a leader there, and they really expanded Krishna consciousness there quite a lot, translating Prabhupada's books into Burmese and so on. So, the books could go all over the world, and from New York to Burma, and so, all right. Okay, so now we'll have Tulsi Puja, and then we'll have greeting of the deities, and then prasadam. All right, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.